one person that knows what's going on with the New York Jets, it is our guy, the host of the Jake Asman Show, Jake Asman. What's going on, brother? How are you?
What's up, Jay? Just got off the air myself, man. So it's
All
been
good.
it's been crazy since yesterday. New coach, I feel like it's starting to grow on a lot of fans about Aaron Glenn because he played for the team and was considered one of the top guys. So we'll see what happens, but there's definitely a lot more optimism today than there was, I guess, at the end of the season for sure.
I guess my question, Jake, is why is this different than what we saw when Robert Saleh was brought on? Because Saleh, especially going after a guy like, when you're looking at D'Amico Ryans, you're looking at, man, that San Francisco coaching staff and how good they are and the success that they had. How is this different? Like, objectively, I'm looking at this and you're going, all right, you're coming from a similar scenario, a guy respected around the league. He obviously was a really good corner in his day, but I mean, just how is it being portrayed from the Jets and from the fan base of like, hey, this is different, but I guess why is the question.
Yeah, you never know with any first timer. I personally wanted someone with previous head coaching experience over any first timer. Like I wanted Brian Flores. They didn't even talk to Mike McCarthy, but that was someone that I really wanted the Jets to consider pursuing. So it's similar to Saleh because once again, it's a first time coach with a defensive background, who, as you said, leader of men, highly respected. Yep. But Robert Saleh, it didn't work out, but that doesn't mean the process was wrong hiring him. Like he was still considered one of the top candidates, and it didn't work. I mean, he was 20-36 as a coach, and we'll see. Maybe he's going to somehow get the Jacksonville job. But when it comes to Glenn, I think it's different because he played. I think it's different because his path to get to where he is a lot different than Saleh. He was a really good corner. He joined the Jets his first 3 years under Pete Carroll and Rich Kotite. They were 10-38, and then Bill Parcells shows up, and they didn't have a losing record the next 5 years he was a Jet. Like the Jets are thought to be like this joke of a franchise. When Aaron Glenn was there, they were a joke and then became a really successful team going to the championship game in 98, 12 wins with Bill Parcells. And then he basically gets to experience what that is like as a coach, going with Dan Campbell from New Orleans to the Lions and watching that Lions team go from one of the worst teams in the league to a team that was a legit Super Bowl contender now the last couple of years. So I think his experiences help him. I think he's not going to be afraid to hold guys accountable and push back and not just be kind of like a player's coach where he tries to be buddy-buddy with the players. The people who he has as references who are speaking highly of him are all legendary coaches in this league, whether it's Parcells or Sean Payton or Belichick, who was the Jets DC when Aaron Glenn was a player under Parcells. There's a lot to like from that, and I think people are just hoping that because he's been here, he knows the owner, he knows the media market, he knows the fans, he is a Jet, he wanted this job, that maybe he could have that kind of effect that you brought up D'Amico Ryans. He came back to Houston, and they've been in the playoffs the last 2 years. I think that's the hope, best case scenario, that Aaron Glenn's ready for this opportunity, and he could do a good job because if he can't, it's going to be the same old same where it's just another year of being bad, and then he'll be out of a job in 2 years, and we're doing this all over again.
Speaking of one Aaron to another Aaron, so what does this mean for the future of Aaron Rodgers? Because, man, I was all on board, and maybe because I was looking at it through pewter-colored glasses, I was like, Brady did it. Rodgers can come in here. I think they'll be okay. He gets injured, and then this year was just such a weird up and down where it looked like at times things were working, and then you give up a bunch of points. He throws a pick. You're like, oh, my God, what is going on? Aaron Rodgers, 2025, is he with the Jets or no?
I personally hope he is. I don't know if he will be. I think it's a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions that they got to answer there. Like for one, if you're bringing Aaron Rodgers back, I don't believe it could be at his current contract because if they keep him for one more year, well, his cap hit is only $23 million this year, which is nothing. Then you pay the piper on that the following year when it's $20 or $63 million in dead cap to release him. And yeah, I mean, the cap goes up every year. You could always maneuver some things, but that's still like a lot for a guy who I think, fairly speaking, this year was probably around average. Like there were moments he looked like the old Rodgers, there were moments he was bad, but he wasn't helped by the most drops in the NFL and horrendous coaching and the defense falling apart. Like I think Aaron Rodgers played at an average level for a lot of this year. I mean, he threw 28 touchdowns and 11 interceptions, so he's still competent, but is he worth dealing with the dead cap hit of that a year from now? Probably not. I don't know if a new GM would want that. So that's the first thing. And then, he's 41. He brought in Hackett to run that system that he wants to run. You can't do that. So it's like they're going to bring in a new offensive coordinator. is Aaron Glenn going to say to Aaron Rodgers, look, we want you, but you got to run the offense that we want you to run and not this, hey, I'm going to change every play at the line of scrimmage. I'm going to do it my way. Like that works when you're winning back-to-back MVPs in Green Bay. That doesn't work when the team goes 5-12. And it's not all him, but they got to run a real modern offensive scheme. So I think that's the second part of all this. And then, look, Rodgers hasn't said that he definitely wants to play next year. I personally think he does. When I heard him speak on Pat McAfee's show last week, he didn't sound like a guy who wants to retire, but he still could. You know, we know this is a guy that always likes to kind of toe that line of, am I playing? Am I not? So I feel like if the answer to the first two is he takes the pay cut, which he said he would, they are able to get him the buy-in to a new offensive scheme, which he also said he would learn, and he does want to play, which I do believe he will. I think he's their best option. Like, I think it's easy to say, move off of him. Who are you bringing in? Like, the options out there stink. And I talk to Jet fans every day. Aaron Rodgers threw 28 touchdowns this past year. They have not had a quarterback throw for more than 9 touchdowns in a single season since Sam Darnold in 2019. Like, Zach Wilson threw 23 career touchdown passes with the Jets. Rodgers had 5 more in 1 year. And obviously, the bar is incredibly low because Jet quarterbacks stink in their history for the most part. But, you know, everyone wants to blame Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he's the biggest reason why they were 5-12. I still think among the options out there, he's their best chance to win games next year.
Yeah, I'm with you. And it's not like they're in a great spot in the draft. It's not like they have the number 1 overall pick. It's like, I could take one of these guys. So, yeah, I'm with, and there's not, I don't think, a slam dunk home run free agent guy either. Or like, what would you rather have? If you're going to pick up a bridge quarterback anyway, I'd probably want Aaron Rodgers and some of these other guys too. See if those guys can recreate their magic. I'm with you, man. I'm watching some of those games. He didn't look like a world beater, but he also didn't look like a guy where it was like, oh, you got to hang it up. You're that bad. It was just a lot around. And one thing that bothered me was the whole Garrett Wilson situation where you're looking at a guy that's an all-world talent, comes out of college, and you're like, that dude's going to be a top 5 receiver for the majority of his career. And then he just didn't look happy. The relationship, you could tell, you know, at Rodgers and Devontae Adams, I mean, those guys are tight. It could have been a force, right? It could have been, wow, look at this 2-headed monster. But it just seemed like Garrett Wilson by the end of the season was not too thrilled with his position in that offense. That's got to be a point of concern for the Jets fans. And also, I think the front office are like, all right, what do we do to make sure we get the most out of just an all-world talent?
I agree with you. And, you know, it almost felt like Devontae was being added to be like the 1B to Garrett, the 1A. And it was more like Devontae's the 1, Garrett's the 2. And there needs to be more balance there because Garrett is phenomenal. Now, you look at his stats, he had the best year of his career with Rodgers throwing to him. He scored double the amount of touchdowns he's had in his career. He had 1,100 receiving yards, 100 catches. Like, statistically, Garrett Wilson played great. But there was a noticeable dip in his target volume once Devontae got there. And part of it, I think, is also this offensive scheme stuff I'm talking about. I don't think they have Garrett Wilson running the right routes in his route tree. Like, they never get him in crossers across the field. He's one of the best receivers in the league with the ball in his hands and always fighting for the extra yards and making that first guy miss. And I just feel like they waste a lot of his reps out there with just quick check downs or like just dump offs or quick out routes. And it's like, this guy should be running deep posts. This guy should be running crossers. He's electric with the ball in his hands. And that comes back to coaching being a big issue for this team, because I'm with you. Garrett Wilson, to me, I mean, he has a chance to be one of the best receivers, if not the best in Jet history if he plays his whole career with the Jets. So they got to get that right because he's too important to not.
Who is it now?
Probably Don Maynard, Hall of
Maynard,
Famer,
yeah.
you know, played with Namath, different era. But when Don Maynard retired, I think he was the all-time yards leader in wide receiver history.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like some of the other guys that I grew up watching there. I mean,
Corbett,
Corbett's got to be in there.
Keyshawn, Altoon, Wesley Walker. They've actually had some pretty good receivers in their history. Yeah,
Altoon. Yeah, I remember the Keyshawn. That was when I was living there. Corbett, because the Long Island guy, man, Hofstra, like that was the perfect dude to have there with the Jets.
Yep.
I want to ask you about Jeff Ulbrich, because now we're gonna see him here in the NFC South. Jimmy Lake, 1 year with Atlanta, and Raheem Morris. I am not the biggest Raheem Morris as a guy. Fantastic as a head coach, I just don't see it. Like, I watch it in Tampa, doesn't make great decisions. He's not great with timeouts either. I didn't see the development. They get rid of him. They bring in Jeff, and I'm like, like I don't know. Like, I don't know if he's that guy where I look at him and go, wow, I'm scared about that Atlanta defense. What should Falcons fans, or, you know, and in an extension, Buccaneers fans should expect from a defense that's led by him, because you've seen it with the Jets the last couple of years.
What's fascinating to me about Ulbrich is once he became the head coach, the defense completely fell apart. Now, was that because it was too much for him to handle being head coach and still being the defensive coordinator? Or is that because Robert Saleh had a lot to do with the defensive success? And I had been told for a while that Saleh was way more involved than most people gave him credit for. And we saw that once he got fired. So I don't know. Look, I don't want to say Ulbrich can't be a good DC. I don't know if that's fair to him. He was put in a really tough spot being thrown into the head coaching role, and he wasn't ready for it. But I don't know how good of a DC he is. The first year they were awful with the Jets. Then they got more talent. And then Saleh, I was told by someone I trust, took on a way bigger role in the defense in that second year. And they became a top 5 defense in that second and third year before it all fell apart this year when he got fired. So I think Ulbrich's a good coach. I'm curious to see what it's going to be like now without Saleh's influence there. And he's truly the one calling the shots as the DC in Atlanta.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because we'll see him twice a year here. What other big moves? I mean, have you really what big move in the NFL has really caught your eye in the last week or two outside of the Jets?
I think Ben Johnson going to Chicago is intriguing because if he's truly like this offensive genius now as a head coach, and he could fix Caleb Williams, like that makes the Bears a factor for the first time in forever. If he's actually like able to get Caleb Williams to play like how Jared Goff has played under Ben Johnson, so. That's been intriguing to me. I'm fascinated to see what happens with the Cowboys. Like, supposedly Brian Schottenheimer's got the inside track to get that job. That's what year is this? 2025, and Schotty's going to be a head coach after he didn't call plays on a Mike McCarthy staff that offensively wasn't great. I don't know. That's a weird one for Jerry. So I'm fascinated about that. And then we brought up Robert Saleh. It feels like he might have the inside track to be the head coach of the Jaguars, which is nuts. So. I'm basically kind of following along this hiring cycle and seeing where everyone ends up.
Yeah, it's pretty wild that I was actually putting it out there on Twitter and actually got some steam of how great of a coach Robert Saleh was because I was trying to throw everybody off the scent of Liam Coen. And it actually, there's a lot of people that came up to me like, Robert Saleh's not a good coach. I'm like, he's a great coach, guys. Fantastic. Perfect fit. He's a cat guy. Like, he'd be perfect for Jacksonville. And then it worked. I don't know if it had anything to do with it, but then Liam Coen stays here making $4.5 million a year, which is pretty nuts for an assistant. I want to ask you about
them, though. I mean, better than me watching it, but I mean, to keep him for another year, it feels like Tampa now, like this is the window. You got to capitalize and go for it. Let me ask you this. Do you think they're keeping him because if they don't achieve whatever goal they have for next year, Bowles could be out and they just promote Coen to not lose him?
I think that's part of it. I don't think because Todd Bowles has been so, and man, you're a perfect guy to ask this because when Todd Bowles got promoted from the DC, a lot of people are like, I love this. This is a great thing and I'm like, whoa. Half of my family are Jets fans. I watched this thing crumble to the earth. Great man, respected around the NFL. But those last couple seasons, it was that stoic Todd Bowles on the sideline, freezing his ass off with a winter hat on, just looking out into the distance. And I was like, I saw that look so many times. We can't have that here in Tampa Bay. And it's so crazy, Jake, how it's flipped. Now I'm one of the people going, bro, he's gotten better every single year. He's not great with time management. There's a lot of coaches, Mike Tomlin, Raheem Morris, Dan Campbell. Like, there's guys that struggle with timeouts and struggle with time management. It's not just Todd Bowles. He's gotten incrementally better. The defense didn't have a lot of talent this year. Antoine Winfield Jr. didn't have a great year. Bunch of injuries. They didn't have nearly the amount of talent on defense that they do on offense. But there's also some semblance of have they hit a ceiling with Todd Bowles. So as you bring that up, I think if they took a step back this year, I wouldn't have been surprised if they went in a different direction and elevated Liam Coen. But this is a huge year in 2025. If the Bucs defense as a team, if the Bucs defense or the team as a whole takes a step back, I wouldn't be surprised if they made that move because, Jake, you don't pay an offensive coordinator $4.5 million if you don't see a long-term future with them, right? I mean, it's different. It's Philly did – the reason why it's that amount is because that's what Philly's paying Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio's no spring chicken. He, after many years, finally got the head coaching job out there, and he was like, yeah, okay. It's different, right? It's a Steve Spagnuolo kind of thing where it's like, this guy is an all-time assistant. So, yeah, I'm with you. And I was actually a little surprised that the Jets weren't one of those teams that were looking into Liam Coen because he's a Northeast guy, Patriots, fan growing up. I think it was kind of set in stone they were going to Mike Vrabel. But if you're the Jets, and as you alluded to, you need a modern offense. I thought Liam Coen coming from that Sean McVay coaching tree out there in LA would have made a lot of sense. Because now I flip it back to you, like Aaron Glenn's got to hire an OC. And now in the league, you're hiring an OC. And if he's that good, he's probably not going to be your OC for long. Just look at the Detroit Lions. He knows that, obviously working alongside like Ben Johnson. So, I mean, are there any names out there? Like, are there any links that Aaron Glenn has? Because you're right. Regardless if it's Rodgers or somebody else, you're going to need an innovative play caller to keep up with the Joneses in the NFL.
100%. And to your point on Coen, they should have requested him. Maybe he turned them down. No one's told me that, but
no, he didn't. The only request that he had was with the Jaguars, which is crazy. No Raiders, no Jets. We got the Bears and the Patriots.
Do you think his agent maybe put it out there? Hey, he's not taking your job if you don't have a quarterback. Like the Raiders have no quarterback. The Jets have maybe a year of Rodgers. I don't think that's going to get him to uproot his family and take that job necessarily.
I would think that, but you look at the situation with Jacksonville. Like, he had the quarterback there, but he knew as well as everybody else knew that Trent Baalke was still there, and that whole situation up there is untenable to say the least. So I don't think he was in a position where he was like picking spots going, I don't want this. I do want this. I don't want this. I truly believe if the Patriots would have called that he would have taken that interview. And that's why but they just, you knew they had their sights set on Vrabel. Like the Jets were probably like, hey, we loved him, but it just makes sense. Same thing with Aaron Glenn, these guys going back to their old teams. Like that kind of shit makes sense to me. But I was a little shocked that the Jets did not give him a call, because that would have made sense, because now Aaron Glenn, again, we go back to it, he's going to need an OC regardless of who the quarterback is.
No doubt. And it's going to be a huge hire for him. Some of the names you're hearing are Clint Kubiak, who most recently was with the Saints as a play caller there. He intrigues me. Also, the Rams pass game coordinator and tight end coach. His name is Nick Caley, who turned down Gerard Mayo a year ago to be the Pats OC. He apparently is under consideration as well. Glenn's got to get that hire right. I mean, you're 100% spot on. Like, Aaron Glenn might be an awesome coach, but if he misses on his offensive play caller, it's tough to have any sustainable success. They're going to need to draft a quarterback at some point. I don't know if it's this year, but in all likelihood, 2026 first round, that is a real possibility. And once again, you'd have a defensive-minded coach overseeing the development of a first-round pick at quarterback. And, I went through this with Saleh with Zach Wilson, Todd Bowles with Sam Darnold, Rex with Mark Sanchez. Like, it's just harder to do if you don't nail the OC hire. And that's why Aaron Glenn has to get that right if he's going to be around for the long term and actually turn the Jets around for once.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of looking at some of these guys. I mean, Clint Kubiak was a guy that the Buccaneers were looking at before they settled on Liam Coen. It's hard to go away. Yeah, you just never know. You're right. I mean, you think these guys are going to be great. I mean, if I'm the Jets, I'm probably Nick Caley's that guy. I mean, it's hard to not go the Sean McVay coaching tree after what you've seen from Kevin O'Connell and Liam Coen, and just knowing like he is going to understand. And this is why I'm gonna kind of fill you in on this part of it. The one thing that really took a step up this year was the blocking by the tight ends in this Liam Coen system. And Nick Caley, a tight ends coach for the LA Rams, also the passing game coordinator. Like, this guy was able to develop 3 tight ends where people thought they were one-trick ponies, and they all contributed in a way this year. So that's just kind of a little peek behind the curtain where Nick Caley could make a lot of sense for the Jets. That's the guy I'm hoping for you. Before I let you go, give me your predictions on who you think is going to win this weekend. We got the Chiefs and the Bills. We got the Eagles and the Commanders. Who are you keeping your eye on?
Well, I'm rooting for whoever comes out of the NFC, because I can't stand the Chiefs, and I hate the Bills even more.
Yes.
So for one more week, I'm rooting for Kansas City and then go NFC. I think Kansas City's going to win, though. Until I see someone go into Arrowhead, not named Joe Burrow, and actually beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, I think Kansas City's just going to find a way and get it done. And then in the NFC, I mean, I really want to pick Washington, but I'm leaning Philly right now. I think it's going to be a great game. I really think both these games could be awesome. I'm certainly hoping they are. Washington, though, for those saying, oh, it's a rookie quarterback, they can't do it, their run's going to end. He's not playing like a rookie right now. Like, forget the rookie quarterback stuff. You make it this far with how he's playing, he's not a rookie at this point. He is playing like a legitimate top 5 quarterback in the sport right now. So I think Washington's got a tremendous shot of winning. I'm just going to pick the favorites, though. I'm going Philly and Kansas City.
I'm with you. At Jake Asman, follow him. The Jake Asman Show, one of the best shows around. I always appreciate your time, my friend. Thank you so much. Keep up the great work, and talk to you again soon, man.
Jay, appreciate you having me. Continue success. Everyone like the video. Subscribe to this man's channel. Help the algorithm. Let's go, man. Jay's crushing it on YouTube.
Thanks, pal. Oh, and I got your note like last week when I was live. I saw it on the screen. I know you popped in just to send your well wishes. So I appreciate all the guidance and the friendship, my man. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Anytime, my man. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Jay.
All right, buddy.